Welcome. So far I have emphasized and tried my best to bring to your attention and to your recognition the main experience of human beings. The main experience we have as human beings living our life, in life and with life. And that's the main experience, not just for us, but to humankind, wherever he had or she had lived over the last million of years. And that main experience is called suffering. And it has different names. The main name is suffering. At least it's in the Christian tradition. The Buddha gave it a little bit of different touch and called it dukkha. And so he gave this experience a kind of different flavor, not just suffering, but this kind of unsatisfactoriness, this kind of an uneasiness to be in life, and so on. You have heard, especially me, talking very often about the Buddha talked about dukkha and not of suffering. He never said life is suffering, but he said very clearly our experience being in life and with life is dukkha, has a flavor of dukkha. I've made us aware that this flavor, this experience of dukkha is directly and absolutely connected to the fact that we are manifested within a body. The body is a cause for all the rest. Now that made it very clear, because we have a body, all kind of mental formation start. They belong to that. And I made it clear it's a I could say the task, the message. You have to sustain this body. Your mind is a servant of that originally. And you make sure that this body will stay alive. And based on that, we have built up a magnitude of ways, of methods, of thoughts, of whatever. And that has created an extra mind, so to say. It was not just the original servant of the body, but it expanded into something we now rightly call the mind. This whole mental structure, what to do, what to think, how to behave, and so on, and in order, and we never should forget that, in order to sustain the body, in order to stay alive. That is a message. Now, the Buddha said, well, yes, it is like that. And you have all these mental structures you can observe which seem to support that: greed, hatred, delusion, and so on and so on. But he said, actually, we do have a mind, we do have a mental structure or another structure where there is no suffering. So if we just hear that word, there is only one conclusion: that he talks about this situation, so to say, or whatever, of not having the body. Because if you don't have the body, the rest is gone. Is that clear? But he actually meant something different. And so today I switch over to that other plane or level or experience. And I give it a different name. But let's begin with Thay's suggestion. I have arrived. I am home in the here and the now. So it's not that he said, I have arrived, I'm home. That's not true. That is our usual body mind. Now I am home. Now I am fine. Now I know how it goes on. I know the customs and I'm familiar. I'm somehow content sometimes. So if you stop there, you remain in the same kind of realm. And I call it now the body realm. And it's easy to get caught into that body realm because that is what we know. So when it comes to the final message, the original message, please listen. I am home in the here and the now. That's what he said. So to feel at home is a known experience. Fine and nice and cozy and known and so on, and so on. But he said, in the here and the now. Now again, we as usually misperceive almost everything according to our body realm. The here and the now is a kind of indicating space and time. But space and time belong to the body realm. Is it so? So I dare, and I'm convinced that I did not mean that. And at the first thing I really like to look into and realize that he did not mean, and he cannot mean, even if he did, he cannot mean space and time. Because space and time, and you don't necessarily need to read Krishnamurti, space and time is the prerequisite for suffering. You look around, you check whether it's according to whatever.
Say it again, space and time is?
Not some, it is a according, then you look for, is that okay? Are you satisfied? Is it what you accept? You know, all people around here are fine, you know, and all this kind of thing. And I said, the emphasis of Krishnamurti was, if you live in space and time, you live in suffering. And thoughts, which come with that. So if we just kind of give that a chance, let's put it this way. Something is meant differently, absolutely differently. And if we really look into what the Buddha said, he talked about that different mind, or a different mind, or a different level of existence, or whatever, you know, it's all wrong what I said. And he gave all that the name nirvana. And that is the wrong place, name too, because that means the ending of, the extinction of. It was not meant that. You see, everything has transmitted to us and taught, you see, it's still stuck into the body realm. And now I use a term or give an indication which now is established, or which makes us more familiar, when I call it the manifested. It's a manifestation of something. The body is a manifestation. It's existing. And some 100 years later, after the birth of the Buddha, people looked into that, what he said, and said, he obviously means something different. And the idea or the message or something we should really listen to is the very simple explanation within the Prajnaparamita Sutra. Emptiness is form, and form still remains emptiness. It is emptiness. It never becomes really form, absolutely by its own. It's always connected to emptiness. And emptiness means not manifested, that's all. So since beginning of the time almost of the experiences of humans, there was this kind of intuition, something you could not express, you even could not manifest, though you are only used to manifest something. But still there was a kind of, I found words like pre-sentiment, or a kind of intuition or intuitiveness. It's something kind of, when you see me leaning over with my ears, a kind of, there is something, but I can't pin it down. I cannot give it a name because it's not an experience anymore. And we all have that. And if not we now have it, it's the experience of the human mind. It's the experience of humans since the beginning. I brought you a sentence by Einstein. You see, these people, the new scientists, they bump into that. They explore and they find out, and then the more they go into that manifested world, they run up into the unmanifested. So having that now transported into what the Buddha has experienced, he had experienced and he had pointed toward that, and he even gave it a name, though it's the wrong one. Nirvana is saying, well, you get something rid of your body, mind. That's not true. We all have that. And Einstein said, a human being is a part of the whole called by us the universe. We experience ourselves, our thoughts and feelings as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical illusion of consciousness. And that actually is the primordial cause for our suffering. It's not due to our having a body, but it's due to be in a situation with our body of disconnected of our actual ground. The final cause for suffering is separateness, not belonging, alienated, not at home, not whole, but distracted. That is our cause. I know people who, or most of us, are misperceive all that. I know people who have that kind strong, a kind of almost pathological impulse to belong. You know that? I'm very often, for some specific reason, point to that. And if that is misperceived, and it is normally, because we are living in the body realm, we do believe and we hanker for that, to belong to the others. And that is the rest of dukkha. Because you can never belong. You cannot belong to a group of people, maybe to this one, but not to the others. We don't belong with our body system to the universe. So, if these people really understand their wanting to belong, then they need to practice the not being and not living in the body realm. So you never belong within the manifested, never within the body realm. Is that clear? Helga, myself, I mentioned that sometimes we're part of a, I call it movement, kind of ecstasy in something. And the main word for us was coming home. And we sang that. I am on the road and I have been, and only to come home. And it never worked. So we gave that a certain space and time. I'm home here, but I've never home there. You see the point? So, however, it's still, let's call it correct when I talked about the body realm. But it's not what we are here for. That's not, within that, there is never the end of suffering. Never, ever. And we all know this kind of unending unease, unsatisfactoriness, and irritations, and I don't know what, because we are stuck. We are part of the manifested. And it's so wonderful that over the last thousands of years, almost millions of years, people tried in all different ways to get in touch with that, with the unmanifested. And basically religions are that. Because if you really look into that, what you're aiming for is the unmanifested mind. God is the unmanifested. So, as I said, I'm so glad and so fortunate, we all are so fortunate, that now after thousands or almost millions of years, we somehow, well, I wouldn't say we can't get a proof yet, but there is a kind of, yes, it's like that. And you have these huge $1 million experiments in Switzerland. It's this CERN or something like that, where you speed up energy. And energy is unmanifested, and you speed it up, and it becomes elements, it becomes manifested. Isn't that something amazing? That is what the Buddha realized. That is what the mystics realized. That is what all people somehow deep side in us call our true nature, the Rigpa, the bare attention, and however you call that. It's the mind. From our way to call it, the mind which does not have a content. And that's how we call it often. And the nirvana is sometimes described as the unconditioned, and so on and so on. Again, it comes from that description of the conditioned. It actually is boundless. Please have a look. Read to it. Understand it. And don't ever think of it in terms of Buddhist terms. Just feel that into here is something meant and mentioned which you can't describe. It's the unmanifested, it's a boundless, and so on and so on. When you read it, that you say, yeah. I mentioned that sometimes in the first Dharmatalk or talk of the Buddha, the setting the Dharma into motion. He at the end said, I have realized, I have experienced something so that I don't manifest anymore. Do you hear that? And he even gave on his side an understanding, a kind of a explanation or a cause for the manifestation. And his words were tanha, the cause for dukkha. Actually, the cause is the thirst for life. That's what he called it, the thirst for life. Which actually means he had the idea, and most probably it's that way, that the unmanifested has, so to say, the option or the leaning or the intention to manifest. And you hear that when people now talk about consciousness, they talk about intentionality. So all that just comes together to a very simple, let's call it fact. The cause, the ground of all this, at least to our understanding, is the unmanifested, the energy, the unbound. And it turns into something which we then perceive, which we can see, which we can touch, because it's manifested. But the problem is we get all the rest of it, the suffering. With the manifestation comes the suffering. Now, when the Buddha started on his search, he practiced a very specific meditation practice, which is still present in some Buddhist traditions. And it's called the jhanas, the absorptions. And there's a special sequence of 4 of them, where you finally end up in that, in emptiness. And the Buddha practiced that throughout his life. And when you read his final moments, he went through that. And you can read the Nirvana Sutra, and then he entered this one, and he entered that one, and he entered that one, and he entered then, and then passed into Nirvana. It's all forgotten a little bit. We are so stuck into our manifestation. But, and that is what I perceive, is the Buddha wanted to give us a stronger hold on that. He said, well, you are in that kind of a body realm, in that kind of greed, hatred, confusion, and me and mine, and all these kind of things. If you just sit like in those doing this meditation, this jhana meditations, it's like trying to get out of that, which is fine, but it does not have the foundation. And he said very early to his disciples, and to most of them, that jhanas don't lead to liberation. you still are somehow stuck. Not when you sit there. At the very moment you come up, they get you. Okay? So, if we do understand that, we kind of roll up our sleeves and say, well, okay, let's see what we can do. We somehow slowly and nicely and whatever get out of that body realm. And that is the main part now in Buddhism. And it's sometimes even called Buddhist psychology and so on and so on. But it actually is a process. It is a kind of an endeavor to slowly, slowly get out of that me, mine, these thoughts, that thoughts, and so on and so on. And you would know by yourself what is the holding, kind of what you want. I want to be seen, I want to belong, and all this kind of thing. And now you would know, sorry about that, but it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. You stay in that. But somehow, when you go through all the teachings, especially in Buddhism and all other traditions, Hindu, they have, I don't know how many different practices to slowly disconnect yourself. Very carefully, not too early, tell you, now I've done. No. Slowly, slowly, slowly. And you can easily observe, especially in the last 10 years, that people are kind of seem to have arrived and touched the ultimate, and then caught into the scandals of power and sex and I don't know what. Careful. They didn't arrive. It's like kind of, you have a fence and you get a ladder and look over it. Say, there it is, and then you have to go down the ladder and get to your lunch. Okay. So, now you know what it's all about. It's a slow, arduous process of slowly, gently getting out or releasing or whatever this conditioned mind. And that's what is it all about. And you would know what to do. Or at least we will go into that in the next days. But please never again ask me where to go. You now know where to go. What is the actual, so to say, aim, which is not an aim. It's the actual coming home. It's the actual belonging. So it takes a while. We are so holding to this and to that. That's okay. But when did I said I will not talk too long. Well, it's not too long, isn't it? Because I heard I should not talk too long. But I tell you, it's okay. So, thank you for listening. You need to talk to someone else because I don't bring my system. Or you write it down to me. Yes.
I just didn't understand something.
Because the funny situation is, if I have that for Helga, and I put it on myself, I hear it too. And it's very irritating. You know, I hear myself talking. Well, to live in that body realm is a kind of tricky thing, you know. It's a kind of really irritating sometimes. So you know what I'm talking about. So let's be relaxed, you know. And that what I said already sometimes, be aware when you move into that mind of dukkha, when you have that mind of it should be like that, then you're getting caught. And you're getting caught too. It should not have happened. That's even the worst one. I will read to you tomorrow the sutra according to that. Don't cling to the past. You know that? Bring your mind to what is there. Bring your mind to the present. That's the beginning of the practice. But there is this kind of an idea that we can do something with the past. It's funny, huh? It's absolutely neurotic. But somehow there is a kind of mightiness. I'm getting that. And that doubles up the speed of dukkha immensely. So you have these two sentences. It should not be that way. And the extension of that, it should not have happened that way. The same thing. The second is even worse. Okay? So, enjoy your practice. And I really mean it now, the practice. Watch your mind. Be with your mind. When your mind is moving into judging, wanting, and this and that, you just observe. Don't try to get rid of it. Just observe is good enough. I have mentioned that many, many times. Because only then you recognize that you are in the mind of the body realm. Otherwise, you have something to do. To get rid of it, to be against it, to obey someone. And that is part of the body realm. Be careful. So that is, it's only observing, only recognizing, only consciousness. That's all. Okay? Thank you for listening.